This video is actually a private video only for my patrons, okay? Because every month we make a Q&A, and on my Patreon channel, we're not now like 40 something patrons, and I have a few of those who are patrons from the very beginning, and they're every transmission with me. And if I just would put myself into that position of some of my most passionate patrons, and I would have had in the beginning of my making, after 5-10 years, that opportunity to learn with question and answer. If you go through all this content which is on the Patreon channel, you really get a lot of information, okay? I feel like I'm nude in front of you, okay, and I don't have any secret anymore. Then certainly if you want to make violins and you're not a musician, then it's convenient that you sign up at my Violin Making Academy. And right now there is, until 1st of September 2022, there is still this early bird. And then later on you get a discount if you take the bundle as it is right now. As a bundle you can make a good price. And then you have the construction, the varnishing and the setup and sound adjustment. But beside that, now, I think it's an interesting topic, and it is a topic which actually is also good to know for musicians. So don't say now, oh, it's making no interest. Stay tuned and listen to what I have to tell here. And the question is from Brigitte Packard. She is together with her husband, I think she's running the Auburn Musician music store from Finger Lake, Auburn in New York State, New York. And her question is like this. There is so much to learn regarding violin making, repairs and adjustments. She told me already that she's running a shop and a lot of rental things and like this is going out. One topic I would be hearing about is peg fitting tips and tricks. Most of the students' level instruments we deal with all have fine tuners on them, and unfortunately the students get to rely on these too much and are intimidated by using the pegs to tune their instrument. When properly fit, there should be no fear of using the pegs. But more often than not, the pegs are sized up due to lack of use. Anything you can share would be appreciated. Thank you again for the time you take to help us learn. This is how I would see it. If you run a shop and you're interested like Brigitte, you will have very satisfied customers. And I don't understand why I don't have more competitors even here signed up on my Patreon channel, but you know, probably everybody knows everything. While I have the impression we could learn from each other, and during these questions even I learn a lot because of the questions, and I have to think about certain things when they ask me some things. It's very interesting, the entire activity. Now this video here is on YouTube for free for everybody, and I just wanted to say to Brigitte, Hut ab, how they say in German, respect. That's a good sign if somebody is open-minded to learn. Now, since I'm actually not running a shop like you, Brigitte, I think you are actually facing the question even more often than me. But there is one thing that you probably have other instruments, and then you're just thinking, how can I get these things solved? Now, it's all about the question of using your time once and invest a little bit more time in that. And when a violin is made, then you need this big drill here. I turned it around so you can't see it, but that's why I have this drill here, my new one here. Still have to adjust it, by the way. It's not precise yet. When we make a scroll, and even all the other instruments which are out there, sooner or later there was somewhere a piece of wood. And if it's made out of plastic, there was one shape, there was somewhere. Now, if you have that piece of wood, you have to drill holes. And it all starts that the holes are straight. So when these here, I put it down and I drill my holes inside, then I get straight holes. So this is the first thing. If these holes are completely strange, then these holes will not help you to come to a very satisfying drilled hole here, which is straight, okay? And they're all like this, and they go through, and they're all straight, okay? This is one thing which helps you to have something which is not stealing your attention. Now, next step, you make the whole instrument, or you get your instruments made in, I don't know where, whatever, from Romania, Bulgaria, China, or Germany, or even Cremona, but I don't think you get a violin from Cremona without the pegs fitted properly. But still, even in Cremona, I don't want to talk now bad about anybody, but it happens that newborn instruments, the pegs don't turn very well. Now, there are several reasons for that, and even my instruments sometimes happens that the pegs don't turn how they should. The main reason for that is because of the climate change, main reason, okay? Here in Cremona it's very humid. Where you are living, maybe it's probability that it is drier than here is very high, because here it's in the Po Valley and it's very flat and very humid. But let's say it goes to Singapore, where it's very hot and humid all year long, and other countries like Korea, in winter very dry and in summer very humid. That makes also things not easy for our pegs here from all kind of instruments. So the first thing is we take a peg reamer. Now here I have plenty of them, because at the time I was purchasing my first one, I took one which I thought is the best one I could find. No, it's not this one. It's not this one. This one is a small one. Yeah, this one is the one. And everybody took, to save a little bit of money, the one with 3 blades, while I was the one in the class who took immediately the best you can buy, the most expensive one, because I said, for the rest of my life I'm going to ream my pegs, and I wanted to do it as perfect, as precise as possible. So I took one with 6 blades. All around has blades. If you also have one with 6 blades, be happy as Edgar and try to purchase immediately one with 3 blades. Because when now we make a step back and we go to our scroll without the peg, or the drills hold, and you go with this one inside, you start reaming, right? And then you come to the second hole. Now here I'm already inside, and sometimes at the time you reach the second hole, this one is already completely inclined, referring to the central line of the instrument, yeah? And then you can see that this one is down. In that time, you want to lift it up, right? If your reamer now is one with 6 blades and you are lifting it, immediately your round hole is not anymore round, and you will not be able to make it nice round again, because there is no area of the reamer itself where it can a little bit relax, while on the other side of the reamer it's cutting, okay? That sounds now like Edgar is here describing something very strange, but believe me, I have a violin making career behind that, and only with 3 blades this one is able to make a nicely reamed a nicely opened, coned hole, which will welcome a perfectly sharpened peg, right? So we leave this one here. And how you see, I made out of these tubes out of plastic for the cables of electricity, and then you cut it and then you heat it a little bit up, and you know, in front of a candle or something, and then you can make it like this, that it pops in, and then you protect them. Yeah. So now we have that one, and similar is the one which is twisted. By looking at it in the catalog, it seems obvious that this one will ream perfect. Indeed, it is reaming perfect, and I have it. But with this one, again, you have difficulties to change the direction. So if the holes are perfectly straight, then you can use something like this, which is slightly twisted, and it just cuts in the hole precisely and perfectly. But we stay here now with 3 blades straight, okay? And we keep, how we say in German, the church in the city center. Okay. Well, this one is the one I wanted to change. And we put this one here. So, of course, for a cello, we have it bigger, right? Now, and indeed it should cut very well. Now, when I say it should cut very well here, to my friends and the ones who worked with me as well at Kadelbecker when old Kadel still was around, we had a peg reamer which didn't cut at all. It still hurts here now how heavy it was to open these holes. That was just a pain. Now, I love to buy, not frequently, but after every 5 to 10 years, I buy a new one, okay? Now, and that sounds so easy, right? Now we come to the point, Brigitte, where you really have to focus on and say, okay, now where is the trick? The next trick, you really have to invest a lot of time, are these nice things here. You can even buy them from India. I never touched this one. I probably have it like for the past 15 years here, because when they sell it to you, they're super good in making great prices. But what they cannot sell you is the time you need to adjust it, okay? India, China, whatever. Because one thing is that the reamer has to match the peg sharpener, yeah? And even if you buy it from a nice German company where everything is made in Germany, or you buy it even at the producer, none of them, not even the nice precise Germans, now I don't put it inside because then I will destroy this sharpen here and this one here, they don't adjust it to you for you. Now in the beginning nobody told me how to adjust the sharpener with the reamer. And there is only one way. Now, since you run a shop with lots of instruments, you can adjust it from every single instrument. You start adjusting. You just say, from now on, every time I fit the pegs, I'm going to adjust my peg sharpener in order that it is matching to this cone, okay? Now, you say, what? It fits already. Before you're convinced that it fits already, take one of your pegs, freshly sharpened, okay? Maybe even one you don't care that much, or maybe the ring is eaten up or something. You take it and you put it into your violin pack box. You start from quite far out. Once it touches both sides, then you take that bag and you see if it's going inside, right? And then you just turn it a little bit and it will get stuck very soon. You take it out and you look at your peg. Now here I have a cello peg because it's bigger, and then later on I will make one peg inside in order to show you. And then when you put it inside, you immediately, against the light, like this, you will realize to see that on one side, or on the more narrow side, or on the thicker side, it's touching, while on the other one it's not touching yet. Okay? And that's all about. So now then you have to open, especially the one you use the most. Usually we use the smallest one for new build instrument. It's always the last one. But for you, maybe they're already fit and you want to fit them more, and then they go too much inside or whatever. Then you have to adjust also the second one. Or the pegs are already inside the violin and they don't turn well. And when you put them out of these affordable rental instruments, you put them out, you see that on one side it's touching more than another one. Then it's too late, because the maker on the other side who made it already didn't adjust. So it's now your turn to adapt the peg to that hole, okay? And how do you do that? It's very easy. You take your peg, you take a file. This one is too rough. I just take now the first file which I find here. And then you look with very precise, even with these glasses I don't see enough. Maybe I see it with this one better. I would need in that case 2 glasses, okay? Now I know that you think that I'm crazy. And then with this one, and then you just look at it, and then you can even see some tiny bumps which have been created by when you were sharpening quick. And then you just take away the shiny area with the file, and only where it is shiny and where it is touching. And then you put it back again into the violin. Slowly, slowly, the more you will touch here, the more you will see slowly, slowly it starts touching even here. And then at the first point, dots which are shining, which are a testimonial that it is going to touch very well, you have to continue everything every time you take it out, to take everything away, up to that point that everything is touching everywhere on both sides, okay? Now, you say, wow, this man is completely crazy. That can take you up to a few hours if you are on a certain instrument. On a lousy instrument, you will just find a way to become very quick. In the beginning, it takes a lot of time, but the more you train it, the better it will become. Now, for those who say they don't have a peg sharpener like this one, where it's a stable position, there are some peg sharpeners where there is one part which you can move, and you just move it every time. It's just, for me, it would be a disaster. Every time it would take 3 hours just to adjust my sharpener. I do that once every few years. Yeah? And our sharpeners here are like, if that will fall down, that would be a disaster, okay? We even have here for the cello, since even we are lazy, let's say. So we have here 2 of those, and we have on this one, the second one, the bigger one, which is adjusted, and we all know. And on this one we signed with red another plate, which we took off from another peg sharpener, and we sharpened it by hand on our Japanese sharpening stones, and then we adjusted it. So if I sharpen here a peg, it is sharpening like butter, you know. This is a long, you could write a love letter on how I'm sharpening here down on this one here. And then it turns out super precise. Now here boxwood, then you have to put on the stain. I even sandpaper it slightly, and that's it, okay? So just for your reference, so what seems like, well, he takes the sharpener, I do it the same and it works out. There are a few hours in between of what you have and it doesn't work, and these ones, and while it works, okay? So the many words, the peg reamer and the peg sharpener need to be adjusted one to each other, okay? Or actually the sharpener needs to be adjusted to the reamer, since the reamer you cannot adjust. And that takes a few hours. Once you have that, you put in your pegs, and that's what I wanted to show you as well. Just last thing which I didn't say, if you don't have so many instruments running around like I do, then I take a piece of wood, I drill a hole, long, 3-4 centimeters, something like this, and then I ream that hole with the peg reamer, and then I sharpen a peg, and I put that peg into that hole, turning it around, and then I look at it. And then I see that it is not correct. Then I adjust it, and I make another peg, okay? So you have to sacrifice a few old pegs, and if they're all too thin, then it's too late, then you have to take another peg, or even a new one, but you know, you can even find new ones or you can make them yourself if you have lots of time. But you have to do that, okay? For cello, for violin, viola, and even for the end pin on a cello, if you really want that it sounds very well, then you need to adjust your wooden cone of the wooden cello end pin to that hole which you are reaming, yeah? I believe that sound is transmitted a little bit similar like temperature. So every time something is not matching very well, end pin included, I think you're losing some energy in some open spots which are vibrating or making stealing vibrations of your final sound. And in the Formula 1 race of sound on high quality instruments, at least I cannot permit myself to lose 0.1% on sound. That's about that. So now we're going to put in 1 or 2 pegs. I have started already to ream these pegs here with a violin tuner, peg reamer, just to open all the holes, which I have drilled on a cello with 8 millimeters. On a violin I would make it with 6 millimeters. And then I take my cello reamer, and I have already signed up where I have to go, yeah? And before it is too late, and before I made a too big hole, I just say, okay, I think it is here, right? So we could say, this is another 2.6 centimeters which I have to go in. And if I look at it, how it looks like this here, then you can deduct here from 48 minus the 26, so it comes to 22 millimeters, which is a good measurement for a cello. Now, I know that you all are working exactly on this ½ millimeter here and there. At the very end, it's not that important, okay? The distance, certainly, if they turn well, this should be the major aim we're going to. If then the aim and all the same length is also nice. As soon as I say all the same length, it's not true that my maker makes it here, so it's all fine. This is personal taste, you know. Here we're just talking about peanuts when we going into details. Here it's always a pleasure to look and say, wow, Edgar, you have such a great violin reamer or cello reamer. And so we go in here like this. Now what I wanted to show you here, now it seems like I do it without checking where I'm doing what. And of course, this is not the case. And while you do that, you certainly have to clean up this here, which I do by going in here without touching the sharpening. I go into it, but I would never touch with this metal here the sharpening edge, okay? The scriber, you never touch the sharpening edge, okay? Watch out, okay? No, I just make one peg, otherwise this video becomes too long. And even so, usually when I finish one of my instruments, I put them all inside. I cut them more or less. I drill the hole for the strings, I pull up the strings, and then I play. And I tune everything, and I do the sound adjustment and all these kind of things, and adjust, and then at the very end, then I do the last, a little bit more here, a little bit there. For this very little bit, just want to see if this one is already going through here. Now it's very large here, and I don't want to make now everything here would become too long. This I do on my Violin Making Academy, but not here on YouTube or on Patreon. So now we have this peg inside, and you can see that it's really hard, okay? And when it is like this hard, another thing you have to watch, if you turn like this and you would see that it's holding here but it's twisting here, or the opposite way, which is impossible by the way, because you cannot turn here and here it is stuck, but the other one way you could see, but you can then look at it and say, wow, is it shiny on both sides the same way, yes or no? That's the point, okay? Once it is well turning around, or you have the impression that here it is a little bit more stuck, you can even a little bit with very fine sandpaper, not too rough of course. This one here is now too rough, I would say, but you could do something like this. Now I just show you here. Okay, just a little bit. I like it actually with the file. It's even more precise because you can just go a little bit closer. Watch out that here this varnish doesn't make your whole inside dirty and makes your peg stuck. But only this tiny here on one side, I can feel already that it is smoother, yeah? It's incredible, this tiny adjusting, it's only a little bit, okay? Now, for me, this one would be very nice. Now, let's say this is very nice. Now, because I don't want to, we have to go completely with this one to the right measurements, because these ones are in boxwood, and I don't want to make the peg dope on it. When it's whistling like this, it's like, wow, okay? So this is now actually the right measurement, because it's not the first cello we are doing here. Now, the peg is inside. I twist it here. It's good. Still would love to have it a little bit more here on this area here. A little bit more taken away. Just a little bit. And now we have this, in America they call it peg dope, right? This one here is, oops, is super peg dope because it seems to be like dope, but it's for the pegs and they all call it peg dope. And you put this on now, let me see once again, how was that? Yeah. So I put here just a little bit. That is enough to be sure that it is signing exactly the position. Okay? And another thing is very good if you just turn a lot when you fit it. Okay? Now you can tell here, you can see already that it is a little bit getting dirty here, but there was too little bag dope. And now, one good trick which I have learned is that you put now, especially when it's a new made instrument, and you still see in the holes of your instrument wood, then you have to continue putting back dope as long that in the inside of the entire hole it is dark, brown, black, whatever, as the peg dope. The entire hole, not the peg. We put it on the peg, otherwise we couldn't reach it, right? Yeah, they call it peg compound in nice English, but actually everybody's talking about peg dope. So don't squeeze it inside and press it that it goes out. Leave it a little bit, okay? No need to push. Later on, musicians will push a lot. You want now that this stuff is going into the wood, right? It's like the famous acqua di colla in Italy, okay? And that you will soak the whole material all around with this compound. And it's getting now all over, and if you look in here, it's getting also all over, but it's not yet all over. So we're going to put a little bit more. Now, especially on a newborn cello, you shouldn't leave too much on it. So we just put now last time a little bit, and that's it. Because especially on the instrument in the beginning, you don't want that it's slipping too much. But you need to put something. And in the very first moment, you need to put quite a lot. Now, we're coming close to the end of this transmission about fitting the pegs, because the rest then is all obvious. But there is a good and a bad news about it. The good news is, if you made it this way, you can even have like something like this on a drill. Then you put it on, leather on both sides, yeah, it's a block of wood. You put it on, and then with a Makita electric drill, and then you turn it a little bit, okay? This is also a good way, okay? Just could be that later on it comes out a little bit. I wouldn't exaggerate, but by twisting with the hand a lot is certainly a good thing, okay? On rental instruments, I could imagine that you just say, zzz, that's it, zzz, without pushing too much, okay? And that gets a good, nice attaching shape. In case your pegs is going in and out, that's a sign that your hole is not round and the peg as well not round. So you need absolutely to double check your peg reamer that it is 3 blades and that it turns nice, without pushing, no need, okay? And this is one thing, so the peg needs to be, the hole needs to be round. And the peg as well, and that you just double check if it is all where it is touching is shiny, or if there is a part shiny and a part where you can visibly see that it is not touching. So then you have to file the shiny parts away, re-put it, and have to do that 3-4 times until it becomes shiny all around. Yeah? After that, once the peg is inside, then you drill your holes and all the rest. And this was not the question of Brigitte, because then she would have asked why the strings are always breaking, right? This is another thing. Last part of this transmission is how you could solve that problem. You, Brigitte, you might not be able to change your students. The ability to tune is something which is actually the duty, I would say, of the teachers to teach that. And of course they have difficulties to teach it because they know those instruments and know that they don't turn. But all the students want a tailpiece with fine tuners inside. And that's something like this. We're all used to it. This is a tailpiece here with fine tuner, maybe in the plastic bag, doesn't look very crunchy. Here we make it a little bit more juicy, that you have a little bit more pleasure to get something like this. Oops. This is like a boxwood with just a very simple fine tuner. That's very common. We're used to see that. And then we could talk about if it's nice as a fine tuner like this, or a small one with a loop string. The loop string is always a little bit of pain at the time when you have to change it, because then somebody has an E string but not a loop, and then it starts the whole thing. The one with the loop, certainly with a small fine tuner, is sound-wise better and is lighter than these big ones. For the student instruments, if you just have that problem, then I would just say from the company Wittner from Germany, and I underline it has to be Wittner from Germany, because there is maybe also the company from, what is this one? They also make them. They just are super ugly. Hold on, but they are the best sounding ones. So I make compliments. What is it? Weidler. Weidler, okay, sorry. They're really, I would say, they're a classic, and an ugly classic from this one here, this Weidler, E-R, Weidler, yeah. And then you get it like this, looks ugly, has already the metal tail gut, and has all these fine tuner integrated. Once mounted on the cello is badly really strange. When you look at it, you say, oh. Even Stradivarius have this on, and they really sound fantastic. That's the Acousticus Seitenhalter tailpiece. What is a little bit more beautiful is that the Wittner looks more beautiful. This is lightweight metal, and with the 4 machine heads, and these two are working without side noise, without troubling too much, and at that point you can tune easy. But if you have now fitted so nice your pegs, and you have these fine tuners down there, on a cello you certainly will use it. On a violin, if you have now the Wittner tailpiece, this one here is the Wittner for violin, and you have this one on, believe me, they will not use the pegs anymore, okay? And as soon as people don't use the pegs, then the pegs won't turn anymore. So you can do as good as you want, but if people don't use the peg every day when they play, They get stuck and it doesn't work. So the best way to avoid that is just that you just mount a tailpiece with no fine tuners, and maybe one for the E string, and then they have to tune every day, or they play on an untuned instrument if you want to change your customers and your students which come to your shop, but I wouldn't do so. Or last option, you mount a tailpiece, a wooden tailpiece, which makes a softer, nicer sound. Even maybe with a nylon gut, which is also for these economic instruments very strong, very harsh sound. It's better if you have not anything else than this nylon gut string. You have a wooden tailpiece with a nylon gut. And then you have these from Wittner again. I am not sponsored, by the way, by Wittner, and I don't even know how to have to call him. Huh? I even talked with the boss like 10 years ago. I get them from Vienna, Austria, from Betz, by the way. These precision pegs from Wittner, W-I-T-T-E-R, they really work very well. The first time I have heard about them, they look like this. They're a little bit thicker than my wooden pegs, and they definitely don't look that beautiful than my pegs. The first time I've seen that was when I was in the United States around year 2000 or 1999 at the Baltimore Cello Festival. And there was a company, Peg Heads at the time, they don't exist anymore. I'd even called them up and I talked to them last year. They wanted to sell me the company, but they don't have the tools anymore. And they had a nice thing that they could put the wooden part on top of this. While here on the Wittner, the mechanism is inside here in the head. That's why it's so thick. But when you fit those, you can fit it, you cut it, you finish it just like a wooden peg, and they're stuck inside, and when you take here and here you turn, 5 times here is 1 turn here. It's like electric guitar just for a cello or even for violin. And if you want to make something nice for your students and they want to start getting used to tune your instruments, try to say them with precision pegs. Costs this and that. In our case, it's for cello, I think 200 or 200 more or something, if they're fitted. And that's a good way to get into the thing that they are fitted. But even professional musicians like it very much, and I have it more and more frequent that they have these kind of precision pegs. Just like in America with these peg heads where they had this wooden part, and I remember that Kadelbecker even liked it. That was a big surprise because it was not that easy to convince Kadel. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a long one, but I tried to answer the question as good as I can. I made the whole video to answer the question of Brigitte Packard, who runs the Auburn musician shop in Auburn, Finger Lake, New York State. And I forgot to answer her question last Q&A from our patrons. See you next month at my Patreon Q&A. See you soon. Ciao, ciao.